Good morning. If you're watching this, this is World Geography, Unit 11, talking about Sub-Saharan Africa. A couple things before we get started here. The SOL for this course will be on December 4th. That is 2 weeks from Friday. I'll be reaching out to you if you have to take it, and I'm sure the school will as well. The way the schedule is set up, I believe, is in the morning is in-person students testing, afternoon is virtual students. Like I said, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. The school will reach out to you with instructions prior to the test day. Make sure you're getting your work caught up. If you're failing, I contacted home last Friday. If the grade's not up by tomorrow, I'm referring to administration for low grade. So please get those caught up so I don't have to refer you. That being said, let's get started. So, Sub-Saharan Africa, broken up into a few major regions. It is way too bright in here to be teaching, so I'm going to kill this first slide. Come on. There we go. Okay. Africa is the second largest continent in the world behind Asia. Okay, it's situated over both sides of the equator, north and south, and provides for. That causes a huge variation in vegetation, climate, animals, population structures, things like that. The economic and political development of sub-Saharan Africa is influenced by colonialism, local African cultures, and the gold mining industry. So first region we're talking about is West Africa. Okay, West Africa. Countries in West Africa include, I'm going to try really hard not to butcher too many of these pronunciations. You got Senegal, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Côte d'Ivoire, that's the Ivory Coast, Benin, Burkina Faso, Cape Verde, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, Sierra Leone, and Togo. Hey, I'm actually proud of that one. I didn't stumble that time. In the Horn of Africa, and literally if you turn Africa this way on its side, it looks like the horn of a rhino or something. This is Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Djibouti, and Eritrea. With West Africa, the ones you will be asked about on your test are these first five. Okay? Horn of Africa, it's these first three. Central Africa, this is the biggest country in this region, the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Countries include Tanzania, Rwanda, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Gabon, the Republic of the Congo, Cameroon, Chad, Uganda, and Burundi. With this one, it is the first four, I believe, that you'll be tested on. Southern Africa, you got Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Madagascar, and Namibia. I messed that one up. Angola. Since the first time I taught this class, they've already changed this country's name. Swaziland is now Eswatini. Tini, whatever. Lesotho, Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Major cities, you got Lagos. This is the largest city in Nigeria. It's the largest city in the African continent. Okay? It's one of the largest and fastest growing cities in the world. One of the largest and busiest ports in Africa. Then you got Dakar, Senegal. Okay, so this top one is Lagos. This is Dakar. It's the capital, largest city in Senegal. This is the westernmost city in the old world. Okay? It's the westernmost city in Europe, Africa, and Asia. It's a major regional port. Johannesburg, South Africa is the largest city in South Africa. It is a mega city, which means it has a population higher than 10 million. It's home to South Africa's constitutional court. And Nairobi, Kenya is the capital and largest city of Kenya. It's named for the Nairobi River, which flows through the city. At Radford, I actually had a professor Dr. Minyara. He was actually one of my world geography professors. He grew up in Nairobi, and then came to America as a professor. But he told us a bunch of stories about growing up there and pictures from his visits back home. Really neat. So, a whole lot less cities you got to worry about this unit. Just 4. Physical characteristics. Okay. You have a huge plateau. Basically, the whole continent is just a plateau. This leads to a bunch of escarpments, okay, which is a steep face at the edge of the plateaus in Africa. The plateau rises from 500 feet in the west to 8,000 feet in the east. You have several depressions or basins throughout the plateau. River transportation is very impeded by the waterfalls wrapped in the cataracts. Cataracts are just groups of waterfalls. Basically, because of the cliffs and the waterfalls, you can't transport things in the river because the boats will crash. An example here is Victoria Falls along Lake Victoria. Due to its location, the climates in northern Africa are mirrors of the climates in southern Africa. Okay, does that make sense? Basically, it's the equator is a mirror, and it flips it. So you have the tropical wet rainforest, you have tropical wet and dry savanna, the semi-arid is the steppe climate, and you have the desert climate here and here. Okay? The deserts in this area are the Namib Desert in southwestern Africa. The Kalahari is southern Africa. The Sahara we talked about last week in North Africa. It has a very smooth coastline, okay? There's very few natural harbors. This is not good for shipping. There's no good places for a ship to dock. A large number of landlocked countries, as you can see, not well on that map, but back here. You have a whole bunch of countries that are landlocked, that don't have access to coastline. You have limited fertility of rainforest soils. Crops can only be grown on rainforest soil for a few years before the soil's no good anymore. So this heavily impacts agriculture and things like that. This causes slash and burn agriculture, where they cut down the rainforest, burn what's left, and that causes the soil to be a little more fertile for a little longer. You have limited water resources, very few rivers, and like I said, not a lot of access to the coast. You've got the 3 deserts I mentioned a minute ago, the Sahara or Sahara, either way. That's in North Africa. The Namib is in southern Africa, and this is caused by the cool current flowing off the coast, which causes very little precipitation. There we go. The Kalahari is in central southern Africa. Vegetation here ranges from grasses to palm trees. Any questions so far? All right. The Sahel is the between the Sahara and the Savannah. Okay, it's like the middle ground. It's a semi-arid climate and shrinking due to desertification, which is the process of fertile land transforming into desert through deforestation, drought, or inappropriate agriculture. With this unit, you only need to know 4 rivers. You got the Nile, which we talked about last week. It's the longest river in the world, with the headwaters located two parts. You have the White Nile that flows out of Lake Victoria, the Blue Nile that comes out of the Ethiopian highlands. This is the main river of Eastern Africa and the Horn of Africa. You have the Zambezi River, which is down here. It's between Zambia and Zimbabwe, empties into the Indian Ocean. Sandbars created from the river blocks large ships from sailing into the river. This is a source of hydroelectricity. The Niger River is over here in West Africa. Okay, it's the main river over here, means Great River. The major means of transportation through the region. And the Congo is here in the middle. It runs through the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and it's the largest network of navigable waterways in Africa. That means boats can actually flow and go back through the Congo River. Second longest river in Africa, and empties into an estuary, which is where fresh water meets the seawater. Oceans, you got the Atlantic on the west, Indian on the east. We've already talked about the Red Sea multiple times. It's right here between Eastern Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. Lake Victoria is found right here in the Great Rift Valley. Largest lake in Africa, largest tropical lake in the world. Lake Tanganyika, really probably butchered it, but it's right here. It's the longest freshwater lake in the world at 418 miles long. Second largest freshwater lake and second deepest lake in the world, both behind Lake Baikal in Siberia. You have nature preserves and national parks. These are located in savannas. You still have issues with poaching, okay? This is where people go and illegally hunt and kill these animals for like rhino horns or elephant tusks, or just to hunt them. You got the Great Rift Valley, which is two tectonic plates moving away from each other, okay? This is some of Africa's best farmland because of the volcanic soil. It's home to both Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. Kilimanjaro is the highest mountain in Africa. And even though it's located so close to the equator, it is so tall that there's still snow on the peaks. You got Mount Kenya, which is the second highest mountain in Africa. Economic-wise, you have a large percentage of the population engaged in primary activity in agriculture. Okay, you have subsistence agriculture, which is where you just grow enough to feed your family. You have nomadic herding. A nomad, someone who doesn't have an actual home. They travel, they follow whatever it is, whether it's herding animals or they travel for better farmland, things like that. Slash and burn agriculture, we already talked about. You have plantation farming, which are, we've talked about before. It's where you have large farms owned by a wealthy few. They grow cash crops such as tea, cocoa, palm trees. Other cash crops include bananas, pineapples, rubber, cotton. Africa has an issue with monoculture, okay? This is where many African nations only have one main crop for export. And what happens is that one crop pulls the same nutrients out of the soil over and over and over and over till the soil's no good. Or if there's like a hurricane or fire or some natural disaster, it can wipe out the entire crop and they have no backup. It's not like, oh, the banana crop died, we still have the pineapple crop. No, it's the banana crop died and we're screwed. You have a poorly developed infrastructure. Much of the continent lacks modern industry due to the lack of capital to develop resources, lack of skilled workers, lack of money, and wars that keep them from earning money, and a reliance on foreign loans. You do have substantial mineral wealth in Africa, a ton of diamonds, gold, other metals, but they're dangerous to extract, and wealthy individuals of European descent generally own these mines, and then the money doesn't go back to sub-Saharan Africa, it goes to Europe. Okay, this is another legacy of the colonialism. Africa is a major exporter of raw materials, gold, diamonds, alloys, timber, fish, arable land, all kinds of raw materials. You have a wide range of per capita incomes from very rich to very, very poor. You have productivity that lags behind population growth. The population is growing, but so much of the population is under 15 years of age that they can't contribute to the productivity of the nations. So it's a huge distinction there. Cultural. Like I said, very uneven population distribution, both in age and population. Rwanda is the most densely populated country at 719 people per square mile. Okay? That's basically, I'm trying to think in my head how, from here out to the end of Main Street by the library, okay, from there to the VFW, to the post office, and back to here. That's roughly a square mile, okay? 719 people live in that area, in Rwanda. Very densely packed. Namibia, though, only has 6 people per square mile. It's the least densely populated country in Africa. So there's a huge difference there. You have a ton of ethnic groups, languages, and customs, over 2,000 in Africa. In Africa, though, English and French are the lingua franca. The lingua franca is a language that's adopted as a common language between different native language speakers. So, for example, if you spoke Spanish, I spoke German, but we both spoke English, that would be the lingua franca. Does that make sense? Okay. You have a large number of refugees, such as a result due to political, ethnic, and environmental crises. A lot of them are wounded or maimed, which leaves them disabled and unable to work. In Sierra Leone, at one point they practiced limb hacking, which was exactly what it sounds like. They would hack off hands or feet if you spoke out against the government or upset them. And then they'd leave you on, and then they said, oh, look, they don't have a hand, so they were an enemy at one point. Refugees flee their country because of war. You have a ton of orphan children because the parents died due to war, disease, whatever. These orphans are then recruited as child soldiers, and then that guarantees problems for the future because war is all these children know. I want to say it was Nigeria had a huge problem with child soldiers a few years back. Maybe it was the Congo. Can't remember exactly. They pass down history through oral tradition. They transfer their history by telling stories. Okay? Cultural heritage, you have masks, sculptures, dance, music and drumming. Thought I had it here. Jewelry, okay? Colorful traditional dress, and the griots. Griots are members of a class of traveling poets, musicians, and storytellers. They maintain the tradition of oral history in parts of West Africa, passing down the history of the region by word of mouth through stories, music, whatever. Cultural influences, European influences from colonization and decolonization have greatly influenced the region. Some African countries didn't gain independence until after the 1950s. European countries came in, took all the mineral wealth, and then left. When European countries colonized Africa, they drew lines on the map to make these colonies, okay, as you can see here. These countries combined ethnic groups that were enemies, and then Europe left, and left the countries as they were, which led to ethnic conflict. We're going to talk about 4 of them, okay, 4 ethnic conflicts. In Rwanda and Burundi, through the Hutus and the Tutsis, the Sudan, Nigeria, and South Africa. So with the Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis, this is the Rwandan genocide, okay? The Hutu are the majority. This is based more on class and ethnicity. April 6, 1994, the Rwandan president dies. He was a Hutu. His plane was shot down, okay? This led to the Hutu rising up and killing the Tutsis. Almost 1 million people were killed over a 100-day period, okay? That's 6 deaths a minute. 800,000 of those people killed were Tutsi. Men, women, children, it did not matter. Okay? There was a book I read while I was at Radford. One of the hardest books to get through because it literally made me sick to my stomach. Machete Season. Okay? This is about the Rwandan genocide. This was written by a lady who went and interviewed 4 killers from this genocide in international prison. I just want to read you this one part. Where was it? Give me just a second. Can't find it here in a second. I'll just tell you the best I can. Okay. I can't find it in here at all. But basically what happens is they talk about attacking a maternity hospital. Okay? No, here it is. Okay. Outside in the garden, Valerie watched what followed. Valerie's one of the killers. They surrounded the maternity hospital, they ripped down the gates, and they simply shot up the locks. They wore very handsome cartridge belts of highly polished leather, but they wanted to avoid wasting bullets. They killed the woman with machetes and clubs. Whenever one of the more agile girls managed to escape the commotion and get out a window, she was caught in the gardens. When a mama had a child hidden underneath her, they picked her up first, then cut the child, then cut the mother last. They talk about cutting. They literally killed 800,000 people with machetes. Okay? They didn't bother to cut the nursing infants properly. Women, children, even infants, they killed just because they were Tutsi. That's what genocide is. Okay? That morning, there were more than 300 women and children. That evening in the garden, there were only 5 women left, spared because they were lucky to be born Hutu. Okay? More than 300 women and children were in this hospital. And I'm sorry, Valerie was one of the ladies that worked at the hospital. She was a nurse. I misspoke there. Over 300 women and children, and there were 5 left by that night. That's what genocide is. Okay? So that's Rwanda. In the Sudan, this is the Darfuri genocide in Darfur. This has occurred, this is 94, okay? So this is about a little under 30 years ago. This is now. This is current, Darfur. This is the first genocide of the 21st century, okay? I'm not going to read all this. I'll hit some of the high notes. More than 1 million children have been killed, wounded, displaced, traumatized, or endured the loss of their parents and families. By 2015, 400,000 people at least were killed. The violence has continued. In 2016, the Sudan government used chemical weapons on the Darfuri people. Okay? Over 3 million lives are impacted by this genocide. Nigeria, this is a religious conflict between Christians and Muslims. Okay? The big thing here in this religious conflict is Boko Haram, which is a terrorist group. They renamed in 2015 as the Islamic State in West Africa when they joined forces with ISIS. Do y'all remember hearing about 5 years ago about all those schoolgirls that were taken hostage? It was like 253 schoolgirls were kidnapped. And that was Boko Haram. That was this group. To this day, there's more than 100 of those girls they still have not found. Boko Haram has killed thousands of people because of a religious conflict. Then South Africa, this is racial. Okay, it's between white South Africans and black South Africans. It was a policy of apartheid, which was systematic segregation, discrimination between 48 and 91. White South Africans were the minority but controlled everything. This changed with Nelson Mandela. He was the leader of the African National Congress. He was arrested in 1964 but released in 1990 by President F.W. de Klerk. De Klerk ended apartheid. They had the first multiracial election in 1994. Mandela becomes president. He died back in 2011, I think. I think it was 2011. Cultural landscape, you have markets, churches, mosques, villages, and then modern city cores and schools. Okay? That's sub-Saharan Africa. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or shoot me an email. I'll help you out however you are. Make sure to be getting your work done. We don't have that much longer left in this 9 weeks, and I want you to be able to pass. So if you need any help, let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.